So yeah, just choose some course that is helpful for your research. Courses that are helpful for our field. The second thing that we can check is the course load. What I mean by course load is the number of homeworks, labs, tests, projects, midterms, finals, etc. So usually the more you have, the heavier the class is, the more time consuming is. So according to our schedule, how much time do we have in that semester, we will choose the one that suits our schedule the best. And the grade contribution is another factor that we should consider while choosing our course. So this is a personal advice I'd give. For me, I would rather go with a course that is, I'd say, risk-free than risky. What I mean by risk-free and risky is that, for example, sometimes you find a course that has a project for, let's say, 60% contribution over the final grade. I will try to avoid this course, to be honest, because I don't want to take the risk. And for example, I don't do the project well, then the class is just a fail. So I'd rather take a class that has the contribution balanced. But again, this is a personal advice I'd give. It's not something like a rule or some like there is many people who will not agree with me in that. But this is how I proceed at least. For the professors are also important, like which professor is giving the class. So for that, I strongly recommend to check the website ratemyprofessors.com. This website where you can find the rating, the feedback of all students about the professors, mainly in America and North America. So if you're having your graduate studies from America or North America, definitely go check your professor before choosing the class on this website. Now, the privilege we have in Canada is that we can take courses from our university or from outside of our university. In that, we have two options. There is French courses and there is English courses. If you're more comfortable with French, then I would say go with École Polytechnique, École de Technologie Supérieure, Université de Montréal. Or if you're more like English person or you don't know French, then go with McGill University or Concord University. That would be better. But I have to mention that lately, École Polytechnique, École Technologie Supérieure, and University of Montréal started to give some English courses. They are not much, they are few, like maybe 1 or 2 per semester, but it's worth checking. Maybe you will find something that would suit you. Now that we understood how to choose the courses, the question is how to distribute my courses during my graduate studies. So the first and most important recommendation is to take most of your courses in the beginning of your degree. And this is for 3 reasons. The first one is that the courses, as I said before, you will choose the courses that are relevant to your field, the ones that are useful for you in your research. So if you take a class at the end of your research studies, then you're not going to take much profit of it because by then you already solved most of your problems of prerequisites and you already reached whatever you wanted to reach. So they're not going to be helpful. It's better to get it in the beginning of your research so that later you can apply what you learned in your research. The second reason is usually the first semester, they are the least loaded, they are the least overwhelming because in the beginning, you're still discovering your field, you still don't have deadlines for submitting papers and all that. You're still, fresh, starting, and the professor is not expecting too much from you neither. So that time you'll be more chill, more relaxed to focus on your courses, succeed them, and then later, once you finish the courses, you'll just focus on your research. Or even if you have 1 course or 2 courses left, it's fine. You will have time to focus on your research. The third and last reason why I say take the courses in the beginning is in case you don't succeed the class or you don't have a good grade in it, which is possible for everyone, you have the chance to change the course or retake it again if needed. So don't let yourself last minute. We all can have this situation. So better have some option to fix things. So take it in the beginning. And the second recommendation for me is that don't take hard courses together. So as I said, the contribution of the workload in the course can change from one course to another. So there is some heavy courses, time-consuming courses, and there is some courses who are a little lighter. So from my own experience, when I was back in Ankara in exchange, I did a mistake of choosing 3 hard courses at the same time, and it was a nightmare. I was studying all the time. I like during the whole semester, although I was an exchange student, I couldn't do anything but study. And at the end, I couldn't have an A in none of them. All of them were like B or C. So that's the problem. If you take hard courses together, you may not be able to, balance all of them, succeed all of them. So if you have 2 hard courses, separate them between 2 semesters, not one semester together. Just take this one in fall and the other one in winter or in the next fall or something. So to conclude my presentation and kind of relist my most important advices for you is that choose courses that helps you in your research. Don't choose ones that are not relevant for your field just because they are easy. And take most of your courses in the beginning of the degree. Don't let yourself last minutes. And don't take hard courses together. Try to separate them between semesters so that you have a meaningful experience with the course and you can have kind of acceptable load to deal with during your semester. And finally, before you choose the course, it's good to check the professor through this website so that you have kind of an idea of the professor before starting the course. So this is it. Thank you for your attention, and I hope all the best for you, all the success for your graduate studies. And if you have any question, please don't hesitate to ask me through the Q&A or later. I'm very happy to respond to all your questions. Good luck.
Merci beaucoup, Imen. Thank you very much, Imen.
Thank you.
Great advice this way. And as Imen said, si vous avez des questions, vous pouvez utiliser le Q&A, le QA that's there. Or if you want to chat and just discuss things, feel free to use the chat. For my presentation, je vais juste dans le chat mis quelques trucs. I'll come to it later, but as I'm presenting on how to start your first scientific paper, comment amorcer votre premier article scientifique, if you want to, in the chat, talk a little bit about yourself, what research topic you have, puis aussi c'est quoi le plus grande difficulté en lien avec la rédaction que vous avez. If I'm seeing it in the chat, I can try and maybe talk about it during my presentation or in the Q&A afterwards. Donc, ce que je vais faire, j'ai pas, I cannot share my screen for some reason. I'm now a presenter, perfect. Okay, I think you can see that now. I'm just going to... Donc, j'espère que vous voyez ça. Today, I'm going to speak about how to start your first scientific paper. Puis, comme j'ai dit, je vais parler un peu en franglais aujourd'hui. Puis, je vais aller assez vite. We don't have that much time, so please don't hesitate afterwards to contact me si vous avez des questions, des trucs comme ça. Je commence avec l'image d'un astronaute floating in space. An astronaut floating in space all alone. Puis souvent, quand les étudiants qui viennent me voir vont dire que je me sens tout seul, I feel very, very alone. And they usually, it's 2 reasons. Sometimes it's because they actually are very alone. Il n'y a pas beaucoup de support avec des collègues. They don't have as much support, maybe even from their director. And the other reason is often because they've never written a scientific article before. So they feel all alone and think that they're the first people that have come into this situation of writing that first scientific article and joining the community. But this is not the case. vous n'êtes pas seul. You are not alone. It's kind of why we chose the logo and the motto for Sarah, qui est le service the service d'aide à la rédaction d'articles scientifiques. It's a mouthful, but really what Sarah is a community. C'est des étudiants, des chercheurs, des professionnels, there's librarians, all kinds of people that are helping in scientific communication and helping each other basically. And there's a lot of group activities. Il y a des rétroactions par des pairs, toutes sortes d'activités en groupe. And the idea of this is that you are joining the larger scientific community when you start graduate studies, and your communication is joining this community as well. Donc, c'est important de penser aussi à tout le processus quand vous êtes en train de rédiger, to not think of yourself as all alone and to take advantage of resources that are out there. So I'm going to come back to that again. In the chat, I asked, and I've posted it here, I'd like to find out a little bit about yourself. Donc, si vous pouvez, durant la présentation, juste de répondre à des questions qui sont là. Puis aussi, si vous avez quelque chose à demander, please don't hesitate to ask in the Q&A. Today, as I'm talking about starting your first scientific article, I'm going to talk really about 4 points. Puis ça va, comme je l'ai dit, ça va être assez rapide. First is communication. Communication, that's what writing is really this idea of messages, des messages. Je vais aussi parler de situer votre recherche et aussi votre public. Donc, this is the whole idea of context of both your research and knowing who you are writing for. Je vais donner quelques étapes pratiques, really some practical steps. I'm not going to go into detail in this short talk, but I have references that you can then use to afterwards. Puis je vais retourner à l'idée de vous n'êtes pas seul, you are not alone. It's very, very important to think about this when you're writing. So communication, c'est des messages. I always love to use Michael from The Office. Je suis assez sûr que les gens ici sont conscients de The Office, Michael, qui est en train de dire, parfois je commence une phrase et je ne sais même pas où elle va. Sometimes I'll start a sentence and I don't even know where it's going. And people that know the character probably know that he does this often, but that's not what you want to do. Pour vous, c'est important de penser aux messages. Really, really think of the messages that you are going to give when you're writing or when you're giving an oral presentation or any kind of thing talking about your work. Puis, l'outil qu'on utilise souvent, c'est les 8 questions de Brown. It's these 8 questions that we often use in our workshops. There are many other tools, but these questions kind of give you the idea of how to be thinking about messages in your research. Puis c'est quelque chose que vous pouvez utiliser même pas pour rédiger. It really is even a way to plan your research project for people that have never done this type of thing before, to be constantly thinking of these messages, because communication, c'est pas seulement avec le public, it's not only with people, it's also with your supervisor, avec votre directeur, avec des collègues, des trucs comme ça. Si vous êtes toujours en train de penser aux messages, if you're thinking about these messages, it'll help you communicate. So it's important to think of who are the intended readers, and I'll come back to this a bit later. What did you do? Pourquoi l'avez-vous fait? What happened? Que signifiaient les résultats en théorie puis dans la pratique? Quel est l'avantage clé pour vos lecteurs? What is the key benefit for your readers? And what remains unresolved? Que reste non résolu? I'm not going to get into detail about these different aspects, but you can think about it as the first question is really figuring out the level that you need to be writing at, and also giving the proper context. Qu'avez-vous fait is really your methodology. You start off with a message and then you expand on that. Why did you do it? This is the whole context, and I'm going to speak a little bit about this, mais de montrer c'est quoi les lacunes, what are the gaps in what has been done and what you are filling. What happened? C'est vraiment les résultats, and you should be able to say it in one phrase and then expand on it, and all the figures and tables and everything you do should be supporting this idea. Le 5, 6, puis le 7, what do the results mean in theory, in practice, and what is the key advantage for your benefit for your readers are really your contribution. So this idea of results mean, what do they mean in theory and in practice? It's how will it change the way people think? That's the theory. Comment ça va changer la façon de penser aux problématiques? Puis in practice, qu'est-ce qu'ils vont faire de différent? What are they going to do that's different because of your research? And it's important to be thinking about that when you're writing your text so that people see the benefits. L'avantage clé pour vos lecteurs, it's to modify your message depending on who you are writing for. Puis what remains unresolved, it's the famous future work. And it's here that you show the limits of your research. As engineers, comme des ingénieurs, we're always in the middle of making theories and assumptions that represent the world, and we're making a model. And those assumptions are often broken. So it's important that you, as the writer, show the reader that you know the limits of your work. Donc, ce sont des outils. I'm not going to get into that much more detail about it, but it's important to be thinking of messages, and these 8 questions are one way to be thinking of it. So if you think about your public, les lecteurs, about passing a message, on peut penser la communication efficace comme de faire passer son message, what I just talked about. And the information is that you're giving is the answer to the question, what? You know, what did you find in your research? But the message is more the so what. Pourquoi c'est pertinent pour le public? Qu'est-ce que ça change? And even though you're doing your research and maybe you don't have your results yet, as you're thinking of your first paper, it's important to be focused on this aspect of things. So this will bring us to the next topic about how to situate your research and also to figure out who your public is as well. C'est vraiment important quand vous êtes en train de rédiger que vous êtes de se rappeler que vous êtes aussi un lecteur. If you think about musicians, you know, the ones that are great musicians also listen to music as well. You have to absorb the research as well and understand your field. You should research the publication where you want to publish, de voir la pertinence de votre contribution à la base de lecteur. Donc, to really figure out for the publication where you want to research why your stuff is important there. Puis aussi, de lire des articles, to read articles to get an idea of the level of detail that's necessary. Puis, il y a les 2 questions que je vais souligner. The why did you do it in your research? It's very important that that is catered to the public that you are talking to. Puis aussi, l'avantage clé for your readers. It's important to be thinking of that. Puis on peut penser à des différents types de lecteurs de public that are there. And broadly, we can maybe put it into 3 different levels. Des lecteurs d'un autre domaine. Ça, c'est vraiment la vulgarisation, like readers from another domain where you're really trying to explain everything. Readers that have related expertise and knowledge, maybe other engineers that are in fields that are close, or experts. Puis vous allez changer un peu le message que vous allez donner. You'll change your message depending on what type of reader. For somebody that's completely from another domain, c'est vraiment le contexte. You want to say the why, the so what. Pourquoi c'est pertinent pour la société? Why it's important for them in the room, not even as a scientist maybe, but just as a person as well. Readers with related expertise and knowledge. Pour eux, peut-être, c'est aussi le contexte. They have to understand your field and why it's important what you're writing about. But it's also important to show why it's pertinent for them. Peut-être c'est une méthodologie qu'on est capable d'adapter. Maybe you can take the methodology and put it into another field. So you have to emphasize that aspect when you're writing. And when we're talking about experts, it's often people that are just interested in the results. They know the context, they know everything else, so you have to hone in on that. C'est pas des règles, mais c'est des choses qui sont importantes à aborder, to think about while you're thinking about your message as well. Comme j'ai dit, je suis en train d'aller assez vite. We don't have that much time, so I'm just going to give some ideas of some practical steps that you can do while writing your first paper. Une chose qui est vraiment importante, comme j'ai dit, c'est de lire, to read other people's papers, to see things that you like, and you can use a template of a paper that you like and adapt it to your research. But often these 11 steps, puis je vais avoir des références, puis je peux donner ma présentation. I can include my presentation that can be mailed out to the registrants as well, so they have the references. That talk about practical ways of approaching a paper. The first thing is to prepare the figures and tables. C'est une façon, parce que c'est encore la communication, puis des figures, puis des tables, c'est des messages. You're trying to show what is important in your research. So starting off with that, then going to the methods to make sure you only include what is pertinent to support your message, to talk about the results, write up the results. Puis à la fin de ça, all the technical things, to then write the discussion, because there is where you're going to figure out what are the important aspects that you want to raise, including the limitations. Then writing a conclusion is very, very important. L'avantage clé pour le lecteur, that's that question 6, I think, in the, 7 in the 8 questions. This is part where it's going to be. Then you go back to the introduction, puis le pourquoi, to give the whole context of what your research is. And it's because you'll know a little bit more about what you're emphasizing once you've done the other parts. The abstract is often the last thing that you do after all the other texts. Puis encore les 8 questions, they're very useful even to figure out if you have all the important points in an abstract. Puis après ça, c'est souvent les titres, les mots-clés, keywords and indexing. There's librarians that can actually help you a lot with this as well, and then the acknowledgements and the references. C'est une façon d'écrire un article. Really facing a blank page is very hard, so often having little tools like this can help you a little bit as well. Puis, je vais finir par l'idée de vous n'êtes pas seul, you are not alone. It's really important to realize that you don't need to write in a bubble. Often writing has a reputation to being a solo endeavor. I'm writing at my desk and doing things. But scientific research itself is not done in a bubble. So the communication aspect, it shouldn't be the same thing. Donc, c'est pour ça que le SARA a commencé. The SARA was started by 4 professors that saw that students needed support in helping each other. And you should be aware of all the resources that are available for you at your school. I work for the Service de la Bibliothèque, the library, but I'm not a librarian. And I've learned a lot about how, when writing a paper, how much help a librarian can give. And it's important to be able to use these resources and get to know your librarian as well to help you. There's many community student groups like SARA as well that exist. And you should look in your university to see what else there is as well. Your peers, your fellow lab mates, everybody else, it's good to get feedback, to exchange things and do things. And then there are organizations like the IEEE Students Chapter that's here, where you get to meet people, network, and gain experience. It's really, really, really important that you realize that you shouldn't be tackling this type of endeavor of writing a paper alone. Donc, c'est ça pour le message final que je veux donner. I really want you to emphasize to you, it might be your first paper that you're writing and you feel like you're inside floating in space all alone, but really, you are not alone. And you should make use of all the resources that you have and talk to people when writing your first article. So thanks very much. I have references here if I can share the presentation. And as with the other presenters, je suis toujours disponible. J'ai mon contact. Le première diapositive, the first slide is here. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions at all. So thanks very much. Je vais juste voir parce que je pense que OK, il y a un problème technique avec Madame Rochou. OK. Donc, je pense, si jamais, je vais juste vérifier que c'est le cas. Francine, vous n'êtes pas capable de... Donc, peut-être ce qu'on va faire, c'est de passer le table rond. We'll go to the round table that's here. I'm assuming that Ruben and Sahaboul are ready as well to talk, and I'll give them an introduction. And if we figure out the technical problems, perhaps afterwards, Madame Prochou can do her presentation, which is something very, very, very pertinent. It's how to manage stress, which I think all students are very interested in. So for our roundtable discussion, we have Ruben Lopez and also Sahaboul Alam that are going to be talking with us. And I will give a little introduction of the two of them right here. So, and I think Ruben also has a little bit of a presentation he's going to give. So Ruben Rodrigo Lopez is a postdoc at the Research Institute of the McGill University Health Center, and he's a former PhD student at ETS, and I've had the pleasure to have actually worked with him a lot in SARA. He's participated a lot. Ruben did a bachelor in mechatronic engineering, where he graduated summa cum laude from the Montreal Institute of Technology. He participated in several contests related to engineering and entrepreneurship, such as the Global Entrepreneurship Summer School in Munich, Germany. He worked as a customer lead in an engineering consulting firm, helping clients to develop testing solutions in the automotive industry. In 2016, he was awarded a full CONACYT ETS scholarship for PhD graduate studies. During his PhD, he was awarded several scholarships, including the Entrepreneurship in Oncology Scholarship to participate in the program Life Sciences Entrepreneurship Development Program. This program is a collaboration between the John Molson Executive Center and UDM. He also won the first place of the 3-minute thesis 2019 edition at ETS. It was a very, very good job in vulgarisation that I saw as well. He then won the People's Choice Award in the Eastern Canada final for that same 3-minute thesis talk. He recently finished his PhD, where he studied the production of next-generation nanomedicines on an industrial scale. Ruben, I'm just gonna also introduce Sahabul as well, and then I'll let you present, and then we'll start the talk as well. So Sahabul Alam is a postdoctoral fellow at Carleton University and a former PhD student from ETS. He received the BSc degree in Electrical and Electronic Engineering from the Khulna University of Engineering and Technology, Khulna, Bangladesh, in 2003, and the MSc degree in Telecommunications from the Institut National de la Recherche Scientifique, University of Quebec, Montréal. In 2010, where he pursued a PhD degree in electrical engineering with the École de Technologie Supérieure, University of Quebec, Montréal, Canada. His research interests include wireless communications in non-Gaussian noise and interference, cooperative communications, and most specifically, cooperative communications in impulsive noise environments. So, Ruben, I'll let you speak as well, and then we'll have our panel discussion, which is experience from a postgraduate student. As things go. So, perfect.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, perfect. Thank you very much for the nice introduction. And also, I would like to thank the IEEE ETS for the invitation. It was very nice to hear from you. And also, je suis très content d'être ici. Je ferai un peu la présentation seulement en anglais, mais si vous avez des questions, n'hésitez pas de me contacter ou de même d'écrire sur le chat un peu les questions. Also, I would like just to take again the last thing that Prashun Lala mentioned about that you are not alone. And this small presentation that is just an introduction for the panel, it's a personal, but I have found out that also it's a shared journey with other graduate students. That at the beginning of your studies, you might feel that all these things that you're experiencing are just like very personal, but as you talk with other students, you might find that this is also something that is common, and this is an experience that it's not unique for yourself, but it's shared with other people. So let's start. First of all, something that I will recommend a lot, and it's very important, is to ask the important question before contacting the supervisor and everything, is why we want to do a graduate studies program, or what we want to pursue this type of program. And there are many answers to this question. You can say, because I would like to have the greatest grade that I could get. I would like to improve my position in my work, or even I just really love the thrill of discovery. I love this part of not knowing what is going to happen, and do that experiment, and knowing that I'm the first one in the entire world knowing this information. And while there are multiple answers to these questions, the truth is that it's not a good one. It's a personal one. And it's a personal answer that you have to have this internal conversation with you, because this one is going to form what is going to be the PhD for you. And that's very important to do, even before looking for a supervisor, because there are supervisors that are very interested in working with the industry. There are others that they work more in research, and there are others that they want you to form yourself to become an academic. So just keep in mind that first asking the question why I would like to follow graduate studies, and based on that, you can go to the next one, that is finding a supervisor. I won't go so deep in this because previously talks they already addressed this question or this topic. But the thing is that if you're looking for a graduate studies, I will recommend just to go out and speak with people in conferences, contact them, and talk. Think about this. It's like a job search, because basically, let's think about the research labs like small companies in which the CEO or the boss is the supervisor, and you want to really get know what they are doing and how they are doing their jobs. And also, it's extremely important, what are you looking for? Are you looking for a mentor? Are you looking for a boss? Or are you looking for a leader? And all these subjects are extremely important to finding a good supervisor, because what is a good supervisor for you might not be a good supervisor for somebody else. So it's very important to keep in mind what you want, and also that this is a process that works in both directions. Don't just if some supervisor accepts you, also you have the right to ask questions. You have the right to know if you really like the way of that supervisor is working. And sometimes also, and I have a lot of colleagues that they have been very, very lucky, and first email that they sent, they got a supervisor. That might not be the case for all of us. It would take a time, it would take a lot of effort, and it's just worth mentioning that if you really want to pursue your graduate studies, it might take time, but also you might be lucky to get one in no time. Once you start your studies, and this is very interesting, is that you might get something called the imposter syndrome. And I will just try to imagine this situation. Uh, let's say that after several months of work, you you learn how to do certain experiments, and also you learn how to perform certain methodologies that are extremely difficult, and then you are very proud of yourself and you get a graph like that next one. Let's say that is voltage against temperature, and you are very proud because are your first results. But you go there and you present in this meeting with your supervisor, and he starts to see this uh, graph, and what he sees is that you don't have the axes here, the titles, there is not the standard deviations, and also that there are a lot of things that are missing. And then you see your colleagues presenting these beautiful three-dimensional graphs because they are more advanced in the grades. And then you start to think, I'm really in the right place. I'm really to the challenge of what is going to be my graduate studies. And this starts this way of thinking that might be not very good if you start to compare yourself with people who are already in the second year, in the third year, or in the fourth year of studies. And also that something that accompanies this is that after a lot of work and after a lot of intense effort, you start to get some grants, and then you start to get also some paper published. But because you feel that you are not up to the challenge, you start to think that, oh, that maybe I was just lucky. Maybe I just got this scholarship because I was lucky, not because I had a good curriculum behind. And this is like a warning signal. And also talking with other graduate students, it's very important to keep in mind that you will go through this roller coaster of emotions, and that it's okay to go through them, but don't get stuck that much in these emotions and in this part of feeling that you are an imposter, that you might not be up to the challenge to complete your graduate studies. I can tell you, and also this small presentation is about what I wanted to hear before starting my PhD students. I can tell you that everything is going to be fine. Just keep pushing hard, work as hell. That's the truth. It's not going to come without any work, but also trust in yourself. And it's part of the natural process. When you start to learn more and more, you will see the dimension of what you knew before. And this is normal. What we try to do in research is just to push a little bit further the science and also engineering in the case of ETS. So feel, if you feel like this, I can tell you it's okay to feel like that, but don't get stuck in this situation. Another important thing is about focus. While you're doing your PhD studies, there are a lot of very exciting projects, but the truth is that you have a finite time and energy. It would be very interesting, for example, to research about, let's say, why nanoparticles become smaller if you produce them with a different type of liquid. Let's say a very general idea. But you have to focus on something, and you have to work like an spiral from this project and from this main idea. So just keep in mind that while there could be a lot of projects outside your main project, you have to focus on the one that you're working on. Being said that, also it is important to keep your mind open to other side projects. I have talked with other PhD students or people who have already finished their studies, and they always give me this advice that is kind of strange: is keep focus, keep your focus on your research, but also don't just keep all the energy in there. So it's kind of it's a fine balance between the focus and also taking some other side projects that could be very exciting. The next general topic that I would like to share with you is shift a bit. And it's something that some PhD students and also graduate student, master student, they have this like kind of shame where they are taking some free time to relax or time to just learn some other things. And the truth is that it is okay to have a life. It is okay that you take some time for yourself for doing other things that are not related with the research. And also, it's extremely healthy. The mind works in a very interesting way, and some neurosciences have this idea in which we have two ways of working. One way is when we are completely focused and immersed in our research, and the other one when we are doing other things, that is like a very fuzzy way of thinking. And the change between these two states, it's very important to keep sanity and also to keep you in a point in which you are more productive. Obviously, you have to work hard in order to have ideas while you are doing other things, but also keep in mind that it's okay to have a life. I can tell you that during my graduate studies, I keep several hobbies running at the same time that my research, that keep me just with the energy to go back to research and do my best. For example, for some people, yoga would be something interesting. For some people, meditation, or just practice your favorite hobby, going around with the bicycle, taking pictures, or traveling a little bit. It's very important to keep also all the other life, and also keep in contact with your friends, because it's going to be an important part of your path as a graduate student. The next thing, and also I would like to be very brief in this, and because it could be a very obvious one, but it's not when you are immersed in your research, is go out and meet new people. It's okay to be in the lab all the time, and also, but give yourself a little bit of time to collaborate and also to meet people. I can tell you in my research, I had that great opportunity because of these conversations with other colleagues and with other people to be able to collaborate with 3 different countries and more than 5 institutions around the world. And the truth is that research cannot be done alone. The days in which these extreme good scientists were able to discover very exciting things in the lab by themselves is already gone. Right now, research is about collaboration, it's about networking, and also do it outside, because it's good to have a very good network of people who can not just support you in your academic endeavors, but also in your personal ones. So go out and meet new people. ETS offers great opportunities to do this. We have, for example, the Café Linguistic. I met a lot of very good friends there, in which is a space in which you can practice several languages. Also, ETS normally creates some events in which you can go, but also go outside. Montreal is a very dynamic city, even during the COVID crisis and during the pandemic. Now that we can go more out and meet with people taking the proper precautions, it's a good idea just to keep your social network going, and also to keep it as a very precious part of your tools. And I can share with you that once before, when I was working, I had the opportunity to work and to talk with the CEO of my company. I asked him, what is the most important thing in this company? And he told me the most important thing is people. People are the most important resource of every organization, and is what at the end it makes everything work. So just keep in mind that. And finally, and very important while you are finalizing your graduate studies, is you are much more than just your research topic. Sometimes we get involved in this research and we start, because it's part of research, we get so focused on just one topic that we forget all the nice tools that we are getting while we are doing research. For example, you know how to evaluate new information critically. That's very important, because you cannot just read the news and say, yes, this is interesting. No, you can go to the very source of that information and to evaluate if this information is valuable or is valid or it has been proven. Also, you know how to analyze complex data. And finally, you can learn by yourself. Sorry, I have another point. You can learn by yourself in a methodic and focused way. And finally, you are auto-motivated and self-directed. And this is very interesting to keep in mind, because when people finish their graduate studies, they think that they just can join the academic research works. But also, I have met a lot of people who, because they have all these previous discussed tools and abilities, they are able to transition to other fields that they might not be directly related with their fields. For example, sales, even analyzing the stocks market in the specific field. For example, in biotech industry, is very common that obviously you want an expert in the biotech industry in order to analyze the stocks, because you're not just looking for the information, but also you are looking for the potential of that technology. So that's extremely important. So I would like to finish my presentation. Sorry, I have. And I would like again to thank the École de Technologie Supérieure and the IEEE, and also the chair Christian Miranda and Jorge Ramos for the invitation. And also I would like to thank Prisca Bustamante, who provided with great ideas to complete this presentation, and also as you is going now through this process. So that's all from my side. And if you have any questions, just please write them, and let's continue with the panel. Prashant.
Great. Thanks very much, Ruben. That was very, very interesting, and I think a great start off for us to discuss in the panel as well. And is it Shubol? Am I pronouncing it right that way, or is it? We can't actually hear you. I think you're still muted.
Yeah, you can pronounce me Sahabul.
Sahabul. Okay, perfect. That's it. Thank you very, very much for participating. I had some prepared questions, but I noticed there was actually a question that came up from my presentation, and I'm wondering maybe because it's a little bit pertinent right now, but maybe we can discuss this as well because in the Q&A section in the chat, I'll translate to English. I had asked, what is the biggest difficulty that students are having right now with writing? And people are saying right now, in terms of confinement, having trouble with being productive. It's hard to not be able to discuss and share in confinement with your colleagues, which I think is a point that, Ruben, that you had brought up as well. And even the fact that people that are outside your circle in a lab don't always understand the stress of a PhD, and they don't understand what it's about as well. So the problem about having your whole routine kind of turned over at this point as well, and not being able to discuss. I wonder if you have any points with that, because I'll just briefly say that I know with this Sarah right now, we've been moving a lot of things virtually online. And Cédric, je vais dire que si jamais vous voulez faire des activités avec votre groupe de recherche, vous pouvez parler avec moi. On peut arranger d'avoir des salles virtuelles, des trucs comme ça. We do a lot of virtual rooms where research groups get together and even use techniques like we use a writing blitz, which is a Pomodoro technique where people are writing and then taking pauses and discussing and doing things. But I'm wondering, Sahbul and Ruben, if what your experience has been in where you're still active researchers in terms of confinement and any advice you have to kind of deal with that as well. Maybe I'll let Sahul talk first if you have any points.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much for giving me this floor. Actually, I don't want to say anything new, but want to emphasize 2 points about Ruben. The first point is motivation. As Ruben said that, like in most cases, we feel nervous. For example, he showed an example that at the beginning, like we know how to draw a linear curve, but we don't know even what is 3D curve. So even sometimes we have the quality inside, but we feel nervous. Let's say I share one point from myself. Like during my PhD at ETS, I got. I should say that I am one of the most fortunate one who got all the PhD scholarships. Like I got PhD NSERC scholarship, I got PhD FRQ20 scholarships, and at the end I got selected as a student of the year from ETS. So I should say that I am the fortunate one from that point of view. But still, I feel that should I have enough quality to continue those research? And sometimes when I see the other profiles, sometimes I feel that should I am the reasonable person, because Ruben in on point, he also said that you have to think first that are you in the exact point, like are you in the reasonable place? So as Ruben said, I think at some point, we are in this roller coaster kind of cycles in our life, but at the end, you should be sufficiently motivated. Like, don't keep yourself on this boundary all the time. Like, you should have to be outside of that boundary. And the second thing that I feel that for research, actually collaboration is really important. This also Ruben said at many points, like maybe you are working and sometimes you don't know about your environment, what's going on around your research area. But of course, it's important that you will continue your research, but at the same time, like try to open your eyes just to see that what's going on around your research. So for this, like collaboration, maybe it's, I feel that it's also part of a research, like what are the other groups? Let's say I am working on a particular topic, so at least I should know that what are the other groups around the world who are working on those topics and what they are doing, and how should I make sufficiently different from that topic. Like at some point in your presentation, you told that sometimes who knows who is well famous for a good piano, but sometimes he listen from other people's. So it's not a wastage of time. Like it's to differentiate you, how you can make differentiate from the others. So like these 2 points actually I have to add. It's not a new, but I want to include on Ruben and you.
I think it's very important because I think that this is this whole idea of the imposter syndrome that you have brought up and Ruben has brought up as well. It's incredible how common it is, and even as you said that you've been fortunate to win all these awards and everything, it's not necessarily the awards that do it. It's still always this feeling of inadequacy sometimes, and there is a balance of it being motivating to try and do better and it being crushing so that you're worried about what I'm doing. And I think exactly as you and Ruben has said, is one way that's very important is this discussion and collaboration amongst people, because you can gauge things. You can't be doing research in a bubble at all. And I guess this also brings up Cedric's point, is that in the present time, it's been very, very difficult in that situation as much to have that collaboration that's going on. So it's something that we all need to do things as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like the point is that if you feel nervous and if you don't try, then there is zero possibility that you will get anything. But if you try, then at least there is 1% of possibility that you will get. Let's say as a PhD student, let's say you will try for like NSERC scholarships. Like for PhD, Vanier is the topmost scholarship, and when you see the requirements, you feel that, oh, it's not for me, it's maybe for somebody else. But it's not true. I have friends, when I tried for those scholarships, I have friends who got Vanier. He have only 2 conferences paper. And I know many of my friends who have even more than 3 journal paper, and he did not even try it for the scholarships. So like if you try, there is a possibility. But if you don't try, then you don't have any possibility. So sometimes to open yourself. And of course, there is a positive and negative result. So you have to be prepared for that.
I think it's a very good point too, that it's an experimental field that everybody's doing. So experimenting with yourself as well is an important way of looking at things too. So one of the questions that I had, which might be of interest to people, is how is a typical PhD working day or week, from your experience that you had doing your research? Because I think it's also a point that was raised in the question and answer Ruben brought up as well, the balance between life and work and everything. So if you were to talk about a typical day, either Ruben or Sahubal, whoever wants to answer, like how would you talk about that?
Okay, I would like to talk about a typical day. And normally there is no typical day because all the time you really need to be learning something new.
Exactly.
But let's talk about like the schedule. Normally there are some people who are more productive on the morning during the morning, or some others that are more productive like the night owls that are on like this. In my case, I like more to be there early in the morning at my office, but also sometimes there is some scheduled activities like doing experiments or things like that. So mostly it starts from like around 8, 9, sometimes even early, and I just go until I finish sometimes. I know that this is not very healthy. Just try to take the time to eat and everything, because sometimes while we are doing experiments, because we are in certain settings that are not allowed to have food there, you have to be very careful with taking all your meals of time. Something that my wife keeps me telling me, you have to eat at your hours. It's something that I haven't successfully done that much, but it's something also that I recommend, that you have to take the time to really take care of yourself, because you will feel it if you don't really take care of you. With time, your productivity is going to decline a bit. So yeah, and also some things that it's very nice to collaborate, but when you have 4 different institutions, you have to take into account and to plan very carefully, because if not, you're going to spend a lot of time moving from one institution to the other. So what I normally do is at the beginning of my week, I plan what I'm going to do, and I do my scale. So in that way, I can take the most of the time from it, and also allowed me to take a small chunks of time to just enjoy myself, have a good, nice dinner with my friends and my family, my wife and everything. So I think it's the good idea to plan ahead so you can identify when you are going to have these time slots in which you can give yourself the time to do something for you, because normally this is like more like a constant activity that you are doing all day. And I'm sure that Sabu is not going to let me lie. Sometimes while you are already sleeping, you have a lot of ideas. So what I do is sometimes I have on my phone or just a notebook just to write if I have any ideas, so I can just write them and sleep, because if you keep thinking about those ideas, you might not sleep that well. So it's just like you need to know yourself and try to, as Bull said, do experiments in yourself. What works better for you? So it's from my side.
Perfect, Ruben. Thanks. Sahuel, did you have something to?
Yeah, actually, thank you, Ruben. Actually, Ruben covered most of the things. So, from my view, actually, for a PhD student, what I feel that there is no working day, working hour, weekdays, weekend boundaries. Most, I think, like Ruben and most of the graduate students will agree with me that most of us works more than 40 hours. Although we have the flexibility that we don't have to go exactly at 9 o'clock and leave at 5 o'clock, we have that flexibility. Like if my friends do job, then he have to wake up early in the morning. So we have the flexibility that we can wake up at 12 in the afternoon. But at the same time, we also have the risk that we have to wake up until morning. So like as a PhD student or as a graduate student, like we are flexible from our time, as Ruben said, that we can come anytime, like some students work at morning and some at night. But at the same time, we feel that as a graduate student, our workload are far different than industrial job holders. Also, one more thing, like sometimes even if we have deadline, then we don't have even any weekends boundaries. Like as Ruben said that for if you are an industrial job holder, then you go to your office at 9, and when you get out at 5 o'clock, then you are totally mentally free. But if you're a grad student, then maybe sometimes you went to your office at afternoon, and after 3 hours you came back to your home, but all the time like something is going on your mind, like all the time you are thinking about something. Maybe you're with your family, but in the meantime you have something on your mind, and you go to your table to write it down. So like what I feel that the difference between grad students workload and a job holder workload is that although physically you are less than at office, but virtually you're more than that actually.
I think it's very true. The thing that many many students will talk about is the structure aspect that's difficult.
Yeah, and also I would like to add something to this. As Sabul said, we don't have weekend boundaries, but also we can figure out how can we set some time slots to just have some meditation or time for ourselves, and don't feel bad if you have been working in a deadline until, let's say, Sunday at 12 to take, let's say, Wednesday or Monday, because as we don't have boundaries in talking about days or work days and weekend days, we also can take the liberty to take them. And I know that always, and it's something that might happen, that while you are like taking this time, you might think, I should be writing, I should be writing, I should be writing. But do an activity that moves your mind from this. There are some people who like to meditate. I like to practice sometimes karate. It helps me a lot because you have to just to focus on your movements and everything, and you can just leave your mind and be there where you can just relax a bit, and it's very healthy for being also creative.
Perfect. We just actually have about a minute left before we take the break. So I'm going to put one question that we had and just try and think of like the one phrase answer maybe that I know that's very difficult, but what would you have done differently if you could restart your PhD? Si vous avez la chance de recommencer votre doctorat, est-ce qu'il y a quelque chose de différent que vous alliez faire? Maybe I'll just give you a second to think about it, and then if somebody has one kind of top thing that they would change, maybe.
I think something that I would do differently is I would ask for help in different aspects sooner, because you think that, yeah, I have to do it, I have to do everything, but the truth is that there's a lot of people there very open to help you. It's like, for example, the Sara group that are going to help you how to write articles. There are also some other resources of people who are just in their labs and they're very happy to learn, to teach you new techniques. So just, I would ask for help earlier, and that's all, because also it saves you a lot of time. I understand that as researcher, we want to internalize everything, but sometimes it's much better just to go there, have a conversation of 5 minutes, and you're going to get your question solved extremely quickly.
Perfect. And Sahual, is there anything that you
Yeah.
would change?
Yeah, from my view, like if I go back to my graduate studies again, I feel that I will do more advanced relevant courses. I think on Iman presentation and also Sadia on her presentation, both of them talk about courses, like how many courses we have to take, what's the importance of courses. Like when I did my grad program, like I feel that if I take too many courses, actually it's a wastage of time, and sometimes it will reduce my research work. But now I feel that actually taking grad courses is not wastage of time. On the other hand, like in 4 months, like in a small duration of time, by a expert, you are getting like more matured on a particular domain, maybe before you don't have any idea on that area. So in a short time to get a clear knowledge from an expert on that field, I think taking good courses is really, really important for graduate courses, graduate students. Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Thanks very much. I'd like to thank both of you very much for this discussion. I know it was very rapid, but I think there's some points. Il y a des points qui touchent tout le monde. There's really important things, and I very, very much appreciate you both have taken the time to participate in this.
Thank you so much, Lala.
Thank you for the invitation. It was nice
No
to
problem.
be here.
Great. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to take a 20-minute break. So we'll come back. It's 12:02 now. So let's say 12:22 to give people a 20-minute break. And then we're going to talk about how to access material and financial resources. Puis on va faire un échange. Ça va être Jorge Ramos qui va parler avant to talk about how to access IT resources. And then we're going to have Christian Miranda who's going to talk about how to obtain scholarships, and then we're going to have another roundtable discussion. And Cédric, votre question, je pense on va le garder aussi pour la discussion à la fin, because I think this whole thing of confinement is an interesting thing that maybe everybody can discuss. So thanks everybody. I think everybody can just stay connected, but we'll start again at 12:22. Thanks. Maintenant, c'est plus comment d'avoir accès aux matériaux et ressources financières, how to have access to materials and financial resources. And we're going to start off with Jorge Ramos, who's going to talk about how to access IT resources. And let me just read a little bit about Jorge, who's the treasurer of the IEEE ETS student branch and a master's student. He graduated from UNLV in AAS in Telecommunications Engineering, Nevada, USA in 2005. He's worked as a UMTS engineer for Nokia and Ericsson 3G projects with AT&T in the USA between 2006 and 2010. Then he moved to Canada to work in Ericsson's advanced support team at UTREN engineer for 4G operators. This is Rogers and Eastlink Wireless between 2010 and 2016. In 2017, he joined TELUS for an RF refarming project, and later he was invited to do a 5G research program at ETS. Currently, he's engaged in IoT research with the graduate research program at ETS and works for Bell Telecom Operations as a team leader. So thanks very much, Jorge. I'll let you take over and give your presentation.
Thank you, Lala. Thank you so much. Good afternoon to everyone. Bon après-midi. What I will do is I would like to start by saying that first I'm going to switch to my content. Just 1 second, please. Okay. and make sure that everybody can see my
Yeah, we can see it.
presentation. Okay, fantastic. So what I will do is to quickly start with saying that if you're in a research program and you are either a master student or PhD student, so one of the key questions to answer is how do I get the technical resources that I need to complete my program to get the objective that I'm starting with, and how to get the technical resources. It has been an interesting challenge for me, and this is an experience that I have coming from the industry, as perhaps you heard from Lala. Coming from the industry back to the school and being able to sustain both areas, it has been a very interesting experience that I would like to share part of it within this presentation. So again, thank you to all. What I will do is split in three sections. The first section will be to discuss about what are the resources available at the local university. We were talking about ETS. This is the L'École Technologie Supérieure, which is based in Montreal, Canada, for those that are connected from elsewhere. And what I would like to present to you is what the program, the graduate students program, has under its electrical department engineering as technical resources. So concretely, I'm talking about labs and IT. So for labs, the electrical department has several labs in the building, and we are really glad and blessed to have all those resources to our disposal. So what we have in regards IT resources, it is pretty much a standard group of technology information as any organization, company, or in this case, university will provide. So you will be provided with basic resources like your email, your company email, in this case, your institution email, that it is assigned or linked with standard Outlook 365. Of course, the access resources, which are Wi-Fi, accessibility, somebody mentioned, and I just have to highlight my previous fellow colleagues that presented about resources in terms of when you will enroll into classes, when you will meet your professors, you always are talking about a site or a place, or especially these days that we have to be remotely available to all these types of portals, I will say. So that's why we have the new VPN, which is specifically considered for all researchers and students during this crisis. And we know already that this is a new world, so we might be being open to be adapted to remote and telework, telestudy, everything that will be, everything became more virtual. And of course, applications, Moodle, Cheminot are names that we use as applications for example, Moodle that hosts and holds all contents for classes that you are about to take. So if you are taking a class, then you will get the material within this platform, and you have to interact with the school. So you have Cheminot Song. So you have different tools that are in the environment and platform. As then the Microsoft that it has been deployed on Azure tools, which is a link between the university and these companies. So those will be the IT resources. Again, you have the links on our portals. But what I want to say is that this is the basic. So you start with the basics. You get access. You get your IDs. You get the credentials. You get to get into your full accessibility to the school in this case. And Very similar to a company, very similar to another environment. Again, I always compare and contrast. So when you join a company, then you will have to go through this process as a first aid. So you will have to create your users' credentials, accessibility. It depends on how far you have to go in security. You will have you will have to go through many layers of authorizations and approvals. So it's a similar thing. And at the university is not different. So you'll have to go to your professor, then you will have to go to different areas where you will be granted access. And talking about lab resources, so this is my point. So you have a card, and your electronic card has an access to your account, to the building, and also will have to be activated to give you access to different labs in the building. And so we have specifically talking about LASIM, which is the lab that I had the opportunity to work with. The infrastructure, it is definitely in a summary, in a nutshell, it is composed by two major areas: the physical section and the numerical, the digital section. So what we are talking about are large rooms equipped with different types of monitors or oscilloscopes, you name it, different type of material that will be required for you and your project to arrive to a successful end. And as my colleagues explained before, you create, you start out of nothing, for example, but then you get to add ideas, you get to accomplish some levels of progress, and then you have to interact with your professor, you have to mold yourself. So it's not any different in the industry, and this is the key part. You go to an office, you have a job description, but turns out that your job description doesn't really match what you have to do. Some of the resources, or most of the resources, are never placed on your table, on the table. So you have to go for them, you have to search for them. And then you have to have a methodic system, of course. You have to go along with the policy of the company, or in this case, the university. You have to comply with regulations and requirements, but at the same time, you have to be proactive in terms of acquiring all technical resources. So generally speaking, on the presentation, on the right side, it goes beyond that. So you have a great associations between the university and the government of Canada, the government of Quebec. So it really, your scope could grow in a very incredible way. So you don't have any ceiling on top of you. So your project can really go after a very ambitious, transform your project in a very ambitious project. It could engage even larger areas. So that is more or less what I would like to illustrate on the first page. So what I did is that I put a map. Of course, we are not going to go through every single module or block, but just for you to notice how big, how large are the elements available for you in terms of digital. I'm talking about one specific lab. So we're talking about under the electrical department, if I'm not mistaken, there are between 6 and 7 labs. So one of them is LASIM, and this one alone has the mapping that I'm presenting. All of these blocks is just in a nutshell different applications, software applications that for which any person or student or employee will require a license, will require some of products. It is, of course, a large amount of license fees involved with it. So you have to be aware that most of these tools are available for you. And I highlight a few of them that perhaps I want to link with my project. So then I will go with equipment. So what kind of equipment do I need to perform and to provide good results for my project? So again, you have multiple types, models, systems. Again, you have to from microelectronic to RF. You name it. You have all the equipment that your project might require. And in case that the equipment is not available in our labs, then you could still request and escalate your demand to another level. again, what you see on these two slides, the equipment is so large that I put it into slides just for you to take a snapshot of what is happening in terms of your availability in our university. Probably you can see some of the blocks are marked with a different color. I just want to highlight some few examples that I can take into this presentation as a spectrum analyzer, for example, or digital RFA converter that I use for my project, of course, oscilloscope and digital multimeters and industrial equipment that it is required for measurement. So, generally speaking, the two sections in terms of technical resources will give you an idea what could you accomplish in terms of the next phase. The next phase, it is if your project will engage or will be related to prototyping. So there you have the actual benefit that it is required through the program, through your research. Again, I guess somebody, Ruben, mentioned that you are the one leading this project, but you need to go after the resources that you need. And in order to get the resources, you might have to interface with different layers and different entities in the university. And finally, you can produce a document, or finally you can produce some results. So here for prototyping, to me, that's a key element in my experience. So I'm getting here a little bit more in my own experience. I had to go after a prototyping project. So I had to use different blocks, the blocks that I highlighted previously. Some of them were used into my own project. For example, you start to do 3D printing blocks, you create your own circuitry, or you can deploy your own. What I did was to produce a mini LAN in the net in the building, so I could reach via LoRa frequencies, which was a little bit more technical, but a connection pinpointing to several parts from the building. So that's in order to get to that point, I had to use several elements from the resources available at LACIM. And continuing with prototyping, so you can see two entire set of blocks just to list the amount of elements that are available for you for prototyping. Special materials, laser cuts for some specific request, the precision and the type of equipment that it is available, it is really impressive. Again, what you have, what I have in this space that I have to show is that one example of this network prototype, for example, engaged the 3D printing. You have the results right there, the 3D printed circuits. I had multiple of them with tag sensor in order to create a wearable vest. So all over the map that I presented, you get to obtain part of it. Now, just before moving forward and going to the next slide, I would like to share, if possible, I can, give me 1 second here. I'm going to stop sharing this part, and I'm going to share another segment, which is the part that I would like to I don't know if you can see my screen now.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. And please, if somebody can also time me, because I usually don't have too much. Okay. This is the real part. So here, when I'm talking about the project prototyping, it is an actual phase-by-phase follow-up. So you have the different phases on a regular project: the initiation, the planning, the execution, the controlling, and closing. So you go into each layer, and then you get the documents. Of course, you get the initial plan, then you get the section where you have to do cost planning, cost estimation, scope definition, scope planning, etc. Then some of the files you can, like you see here, it is a specific inventory created in order to plan ahead what you are going to do and how large do you think, or do you want to be your project. Of course, you have execution, the control, where you can actually get results. Your scripts, your coding could be included here. And again, in the area that I'm working with, which is IoT, it is really exhausting. It goes from end to end, from electronics to application to cloud services. So that's where I needed, and I believe that I wanted to have full control of the process before ahead, asking for the budget required to start the activity. And as you can see, I have few examples of the timing, the execution, and the inventory that was requested. Again, in order to place the necessary resources, you have to convince the people what you need and why you need it for. And then you will get the money, you will get the grants, you will get the benefits in order to fulfill your requirement. So just to cut short, I'm going to stop this segment and I'm going to go back to finish up my presentation by giving the last segment of it, which is the end, the tips. So what do I have as a recommendation? Basically, follow the best practices. You cannot do anything of that without following the standards. The standards are followed by students, by companies, by enterprises. So some of these standards are, for example, the PDCA. I love PDCA because it is a simple way. You plan it, you do it, you check it. If anything's wrong, you act to fix it, then you go back to plan. So by following this standard method, and I put some links, you can go into ITIL, which is a very large standard for IT, the projects for telecommunications and information technology. And of course, the specific methods, how to do it, how to create your folders and so on. You go to project management into models like Agile, which is a repetition until getting something correct. Well, just don't want to get more from your time. That's what I have from my part, Lala. I'm open to questions, if anything, but other than that, I'm done.
Perfect. Jorge, thank you very much. Je pense que c'est vraiment utile. It's something that's going to be very useful for students to see. Also, the resources available and an approach to get things done. Thank you very much, Jorge.
Thank you.
So next, we're going to have, before we start our round table, I think Christian is going to speak briefly about how to obtain scholarships, the books, which I think is a very important thing to be thinking of. So to quickly read Christian's biography, is the chair of the IEEE ETS student branch and a cybersecurity research intern at Ericsson and a PhD candidate. He received his bachelor's degree in computer and electrical engineering and the MS degree in applied computing security from the Escuela Superior Politécnica del Litoral, ESPOL, in Guayaquil, Ecuador, in 2010. He's currently a PhD candidate in electrical engineering at the École de Technologie Supérieure, ETS, here in Montreal. And since 2008, he's been a technical consultant in the field of cybersecurity and network architecture design in recognized industries around the world. His research findings are published in many prestigious venues such as IEEE TIFS, IEEE ICC, and IEEE WCNC. His recent research activities cover the analysis and deployment of intrusion detection and mitigation mechanisms using reinforcement learning algorithms for software-defined cloud radio networks, SDCRANs. So I will leave it to you, Christian, to talk about scholarships and courses. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Brasson. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much for such a great introduction. Thank you all of you. Thanks for being here again. So So it's important that we need to think about even in order to add the activities that Rodrigo and Sahabul already mentioned, we need to deal with the daily life, doing some research, doing some activities in order to get motivated doing our postgraduate studies. We need to deal with another concern, which is how to deal with the financial resources, how to get a scholarship. It's important to get clear that, moreover, even though many people comes to or start their graduate studies with their supervisor funds, many other people don't, or maybe their funds are not enough in order to get a good quality of life here in Canada, especially for international students like me. So I want to share with you my presentation in order to help you to get good scholarships. Okay, let me share my presentation.
Are you able to see it?
It's a minute.
I think somebody has to switch you to presenter and then it should work.
You see it? No.
No, we don't see it yet.
Okay. Let me share the content now.
Yes, we see it now.
Okay. Good. Okay, great. All of you, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, great. So the thing is how to obtain scholarships. Okay, this is a big question. But at first, what is a scholarship? It's not a big deal. It's just a financial aid for students. This financial aid comes from public and private organizations in order to pursue our studies here in Canada or around the world. So this is, but the question is, we have so many myths and reality when we start master or doctorate students. So the myth here is, for example, in my case, I had a very big myth, which is I'm not a great student or an athlete. I don't have superpowers. How do I get a scholarship? So no worries about that, because there are so many people who are not very good in sports, who are not who don't have any good GPA. No, or maybe like me, for example, when I started my PhD, I didn't have any strong background as a researcher, but I had a strong background in the industry as a professional, as an engineer. So believe me, there are so many opportunities for all of us. So don't be worried about your GPA. Don't be worried about to be very good at sports in order to get a good scholarship. Okay. Another myth that we have normally all of these myths come from our mindset. So we need to be open mind. There are tons of possibility outside. So just get motivated and don't give up. Okay. The second myth is applying for a scholarship is a lot of work. It is not worth my time. So unfortunately, yes, it's it's time consuming. Sometimes it's painful, because moreover, you need to deal with some research activities. You need to deal with frequently meetings with your supervisor. You need to deal with this scholarship, you need to create proposals in order to get some funds for your research. But no worries about that, because the first time you apply for a scholarship, you create a proposal, you create a letter of motivation, but in the next one, in the next scholarship you want to apply, it's going to be easier because you already have a template for it. So maybe it's just a big effort at the beginning, and then you can start to get accustomed to it, and then you just modify depending on the requirement of the scholarship. The third myth is if you're a top student, we'll automatically get a scholarship. So it's not a guarantee that being a very good student, or maybe in the past, maybe in your country, or maybe in your bachelor, you got a very good GPA. So this is not a guarantee that you're going to get a scholarship. You know, it's not just a matter of GPA. It's a matter of just to want it, just to be persistent on it, and to apply as many scholarship you can find. So this is the key factor for in order to get a scholarship. Okay, there are plenty of students that are not the best one, are not, they don't have, or we don't have the best GPA, but we've been able to get a good scholarship. Okay, there are another myth that I got in mind when I started was there is too much competition. Okay, I know there is too much competition. There are so many people who apply for the same scholarship. There are so many people from different schools that apply for the same scholarship. So many people that maybe you think are better than you because they got a higher GPA, or maybe they did a great job as a researcher in the past. Maybe they have more opportunities to get it. Indeed, yes, it helps a lot. It helps a lot if you got a good GPA, if you already have a good research work coming from the past. Of course, it helps a lot, but it doesn't mean that you cannot do it. Okay, an example for that is me. No, because as I told you, I came to Canada in order to get my PhD, and I spent maybe 10 years of my life working in the industry. I have a very huge background in the industry, but I didn't have a very good background as a researcher. But even though all of these concerns, I could get a scholarship. Okay, 59% of the scholarships want more applicants. Yes, especially here in Canada, I have found that there are so many public and private organizations that wants to help the students in order to promote their industry. Okay, so please don't give up. There are so many opportunities outside. If you can apply, the more as you can, for sure you're gonna get it. Okay, another myth is only schools give out a scholarship. As I told you, for example, in our specific case, ETS offers so many scholarships, especially at the beginning of the year, especially in the spring. But it's not enough. Now there are so many students, there are so many people who wants to get it, and not all of them can get it from the school. There are so many organizations outside. I'm gonna show you at the end of the presentation some links that you can apply, you can get it. Another myth is all the scholarship deadlines are in the spring. As I told you, normally at the schools, normally there are many scholarships, some smaller scholarships, some small amounts that the schools offer to the students in order to finance their studies for a short period of time, which is good. No, which is good because it's a help for all of us. But please don't be limited by that. You have so many links, you have so many resources outside in order to get a good scholarship. No, it's just a matter to do a good research on it. I know that this is an additional task that you need to deal with, but we have to do it. You have to get motivated on it. If I can do it, if we can do it, of course, you can do it as well. Okay, so the question is, what should I do? What should I do in order to get a scholarship, in order to get some funds? As I told you, when I come to Canada, I didn't I didn't receive any funds from my supervisor because my specific project was about cybersecurity, and my research lab is about physical layer security, and my background is about cybersecurity. That's why when I just started here, I was a little bit concerned. Was tons of things that I need to find, I need to discover. So the first year of my experience here as a PhD student was a time slot of discovering things, which helps me to get easier my life in the coming years. So I won't be a liar with you. Of course, at the beginning, especially the people who came here to Canada from different countries, it's a bit confusing at the beginning, but time by time, month by month, especially with the hand with your supervisor, of course, you're gonna get success, and you will find a way to get some funds. Okay, some tips that I wanna give you in order to get a scholarship, to get a fellowship. The first step is to get support from your supervisor. This is very important. No, there are so many people. The majority of the people who pursue a master in research, or maybe a PhD, comes here or start their PhD with funds, with the financial aid of, coming from the supervisor, which is very good. But maybe it's not enough. No, maybe it's not enough because you need to deal with. You need to eat. You need to buy your stuff. You need to wear your clothes. Sometimes you need to hang out with friends, which is very important. And I can complement the idea that Sahabul and Ruben told you before. It's very important to get a balance between the both activities. You know, I have met some colleagues that they are focused especially in do research and get success, which is important. I think it's very important, but it's important to balance, you know, because you know your life is important, your health is important, to meet with friends is important, especially for your mental health. No, I don't take me wrong that you don't need to get focused on your work. Of course you have to, but you need to get a balance, and of course you will find it. You will figure it out. Okay. The second step is to get motivated. Every time, get motivated. So this is, I think, one of the most important thing, because it depends on you. Depends on you to get motivated, to get ready for all the concerns maybe you wanna face off, especially when you start your postgraduate studies. Budget your time effectively. This is an important step as well. You need to handle the way to do your research, to discover things, because of course you have to discover many things, especially for the people who come from different countries to Canada. But you will find, of course, you will find the way how to deal with it, and then you will handle your time in the best way. You need to do your research. You need to find some funds for you, of course, and with the time you're gonna get it. The fourth step is contact your financial aid office. This is extremely important as well. At ETS, we have a very active financial aid office every month. They send some emails in order to propose some scholarship for the students. And then there are some web page as well in order to find a suitable scholarship for you. Maybe for the people who are connected from different universities, of course, you will have or you must have at your financial aid office. Sometimes, because of the time, we forget to take a look on the opportunities we have in the school. In the school and outside the school, because this office offers not only scholarship coming from the school, they offer opportunities from the public and the private sector as well. The 5 points is understand the requirements. I lose some opportunities, especially at the beginning, because I didn't read, especially I didn't read carefully the details about the scholarship demand. So you need to read carefully all the requirements all of them are important. Sometimes I thought that maybe if we didn't add the title of the proposal, it's not really relevant, but believe me, it's very relevant because they will find they need to verify all the details in order to reduce the number of applicants. So you have to be careful about that. And number 6, don't forget about the smaller awards. This is extremely important, especially for me, especially for the people who didn't have any research background in the past. So this is the easiest way, the quickest way in order to get a scholarship because normally they didn't have strong requirements in order to get it. Okay, maybe 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 until 5,000 K would be very good for us. And especially if these scholarships are consecutive, let's say that they offer maybe 4 of these scholarship in the year, maybe you can apply, maybe you can get it, maybe 1 or 2. You know, everything depends on you. The step number 7 is remember you still have MyTax. Okay, to me, this is I think my the most important step in my case because I know that I need to deal with my daily life research and daily research, my frequent meetings with my supervisor. I need to deal with my life here in Canada. So maybe in order to create some proposals, especially for the big public organization, will be a little bit painful. So that's why, especially in the last 2 years, I prefer to go directly to MyTax. MyTax offer a tons of opportunities, especially if you want to create or maybe if you want to pursue a project with the industry. It's very easy to get it. I'm going to show you at the end of the presentation how to do it. Okay, this is like a social media of work or job or bank jobs when you can apply as a student and you can get an internship. They pay you during a period of time in order to work with them. Meantime, you're working with them, you can do research for them and you can prepare the papers as well. So I think this is to me, what has been the best tactic in order to get my PhD faster and to get funded as well. Okay. And the last but not the least is to stay persistent. I think this is the key to get success in your postgraduate studies. You need to get motivated. You need to stay persistent. You don't need to give up. You have many resources outside, and of course, you are able to get a good scholarship. Okay, where do I find it? This is a very good question. Okay, we have many resources, but where? Where do I find it? Okay, I can show you okay, so some links that maybe can help you. You need to be aware that the financial office of your school, okay, the link of your school, the financial office of your school is very important in order to verify all the scholarship opportunities you have. Okay, then there are some other scholarships coming from the private sector, like Google and Facebook and Amazon. So I just discovered last year that they offer some scholarship for the student, and hopefully I got one, no, coming from Google. Okay, so many people doesn't know about it. Many people don't know about it, but I let you know that you can apply for it. It's not a big amount; it's only 5K, but you can get it. It's a very good help for you. Okay, and finally, but the last one, but not the least, is the MyTax program, the acceleration, especially the acceleration program, which help you to find like a part-time job, okay, in collaboration with the academia, in this case with ETS or any other university, will let you work with them in the research area, especially focusing your background in order to get some funds and work in your research at meantime as well. Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much. If you have any additional question, I think maybe we can talk a lot about this topic, and I will share with you all the links, all the presentation. If you have any other question, maybe you're free to let me know at the end of the other presentation in the Q&A session. And of course, we are here. All of us are here in order to help you, to get success in your studies. Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much, Christian. That was an excellent presentation, and I think one of the topics that came up again, un sujet qui était vraiment abordé durant toute cette présentation, c'est le syndrome d'imposteur, the imposter syndrome that people feel, and I think you've given some very good advice with that as well. I just want to let you know that Francine Brochu, who was supposed to present, était censée de présenter sur la gestion de stress, managing stress. Unfortunately, because of technical problems, she wasn't able to join. Je pense qu'il y a des problèmes à l'ETS. They're having problems with the network there. But she wants everybody to know, si vous avez besoin d'aide, besoin de lui contacter, ça lui fera plaisir vraiment de vous aider. If you want to contact her, I think her contact information is on the Facebook page. But when we send the presentations as well, we can make sure to have it. It would really be, she'd be very, very glad to help people. And I think in this time too, talking about stress is something that's very good. Donc, on va continuer. We're going to continue now with the panel discussion, a round table on how to get a job after graduation. Comment réussir à avoir un poste après que vous êtes diplômé. And for this panel discussion, we're going to be joined again by Sahaboul Alam. And we're also going to have Basant Selim, who's going to join us. So I've already introduced Sahaboul, so I'm sorry I won't read your biography again this time, but I'll introduce you all to Basant Selim, who's a senior researcher at Ericsson and a former postdoctoral fellow at ETS. She received a master's degree in communication systems from Pierre et Marie Curie in Paris, Paris 11 University in France in 2011, and a PhD degree from Khalifa University in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates in 2017. She's currently a postdoctoral fellow at École de Technologie Supérieure in Montreal, Canada here. Her research interests include wireless communication, radio frequency impairments, non-orthogonal multiple access, IoT, and machine learning. So Basant, thanks very much for joining us here. So the topic today is for the roundtable is how do I get a job after graduation? Si vous avez des questions, n'hésitez pas à les mettre dans le Q&A in the Q&A tab or in the chat, and we'll read them and come through. But I will start off maybe with a question, and maybe I'll start with you, Basant, and afterwards, Sahaboul, you can answer. Is I think a question that comes up with students often: how did you build your CV? Comment vous avez réussi avec votre résumé de supporter to do things? If you could answer that.
Thank you, President, for the introduction, and I'm happy to be here today. So how did I build my CV is a very important question, I believe, because there is building your CV and there is writing your CV, and they are equally important, in my opinion. So if we start with building the CV, well, first one has to identify what kind of work I want to do when I graduate. So you've mentioned my background. I was a postdoc at ETS, and I knew that to get a position in today's market, well, I had to develop my machine learning skills. So this is something that I call build your CV. And while I was a postdoc in my extra time, and I actually, not only in my extra time, because I made sure to build the skill to incorporate it in my research as a postdoc. I wasn't just trying to learn machine learning for nothing. I used it in my research. And this is something I had to do to build my CV. So this is one step that is very important. You have to identify what do you want to do and what kind of skills are needed for whatever you want to do. And try to, again, that's my opinion. It's some, how do we call it? I lost the word.
Biased
Anyways,
yeah.
it's it's not a recommendation. There's another word for that, but anyways, that I'm giving you. So try to build these skills during your PhD. I know you are very busy with whatever work you're doing, but this is equally important. Just keep this in mind. Whatever you need to do, you have to do it. Don't just focus on whatever research you are doing. Think ahead, think what you will need, and try to prepare for this in advance. So this is the first part, building your CV. Next thing is, again, very important. You have to write your CV. Now, we have a conception that is this exercise has to be done only once, which is not true. And the idea is, if we don't spend enough time to cater our CV to the offer, why should the employer spend time and allocate resources for someone to interview you? So that's very important. I have to, every time I see an offer, I have to get that job description and write a CV for that job description and write a cover letter again for that job description, because otherwise we won't go through. Christian talked a bit about internship, no, not internship, scholarship, sorry. So a good thing with scholarships, so you send your application, someone will read it. With CV, it's not, unfortunately, not the same way. And if you want your CV to be read, you have to put in effort in there. And that's really my, again, I lost the word. It's not the recommendation.
Maybe tip or advice.
Advice, exactly.
Okay,
that's my advice for you. If you're hesitating between not sending a CV or sending a plain CV, go with not sending a CV.
I think that's it was actually something that Sadia had brought up even for applying for graduate studies, that instead of doing something generic, c'est vraiment, ça vaut la peine de vraiment lire, to read what the thing is and cater it because you show interest. And being on the other side, in industry, having hired people, I know it makes all the difference that way as well. Puis ce que vous avez dit avec des projets, with projects as well, to build your skills. I know that even if somebody's formal work doesn't have to do with something, but on their own, they've done some Git projects and contributed things, or I'm talking about software engineering, and they've shown interest. It makes a huge deal. So I think that's very interesting. Sahuel, I don't know if you have some comments about how to build up your CV.
I think Basant covered both of the cases, like build your CV and write your CV. And exactly when Basant was talking, I was thinking to remark the Sadia's comment, like instead of like sending your 100 CV to 100 people, just try to send to 10 pupils, but in a meaningful way. So like I think it's the same thing for job also. Like although I don't have that much experience about applying for jobs, because last year I finished my PhD and started working as a postdoctoral fellow. So I have I think few experience. But what I found out is that like if you create your CV, like you have to make sure that for which purpose you are using your CV. Let's say I have a CV for my academic purposes and I'm using this CV for my industrial purposes, it does not work. Also, let's say I have an industrial CV and I prepare this, I corrected with many pupils. So I thought that, okay, now I have the ideal one and I am putting this to everywhere. So it does not work. Like for every job, there is a job description. So sometimes, like as Basan said, that in some way you have to make different from the others. Otherwise, why the recruiter will read your CV? They are receiving 100 CVs and they don't expend like 100 hours to like differentiate the CV. So they have their own time limitation also. So in somehow, like you have to make your CV different. Let's say in the job description, like it's written that okay, if you are Canadian citizen, then you will get a benefit. If you have a PhD degree, then you will get a benefit. So like maybe you don't think that okay, it's not your quality. You got a Canadian citizen and it's not a quality, but maybe in your summary at some point you wrote that you are a Canadian citizen and this actually differentiate you from the other candidates. So sometimes even some important points, maybe you don't think from your side that it's not your quality, but in the job description it should be a quality. So try to read the job description carefully, use the keywords and reflect those keywords on your CV and cover letter. So I think Basant also put emphasis on those points, but this is the from my side.
I think that's extremely important what you just said, and Basant had mentioned it as well, is not only to read the description, but to take what you have done and match it. Puis ça, j'ai vu déjà, I've seen this, and it works. Even a bullet point thing of taking keywords and points from a job description and showing how your experience matches that is very important. It shows the person that's reading your CV that you've thought about it and you really, really are trying to match to you as well. Thanks. That I think that's a good summary of building up your CV. I have a couple of questions that maybe is a bit more relevant for Basant, but Zahubal, maybe you can also talk about it a bit, even though you're talking about a postdoctoral position. Is how did you actually apply for your current position, and if there was an interview or something like that, how did you prepare for it? I'm not sure in your case if it was more because it's a research position, it ended up being more through networking and and knowing people already, or. And if Basant, if you want to answer that, you can go ahead too.
You want me to start on
Sure.
that? Yeah. Okay.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, I'll go ahead. So again, if we're gonna look at, I like to put it this way. I don't want to talk necessarily about my situation because I'm gonna talk later about my situation, but I want to start with a general case. I got my the current position I have through. I was first an intern, and then my tax researcher, as we call it, and then I got the position. But I want to talk in general, because I know some now I am currently hiring new people coming. I'm in the process, I do the interviews and so on, so I have some tips to give you there. And my first tip would be, when it comes to applying to a position, well, there's the traditional way we all know about, is Indeed or whatever website there is there, and sending the CVs and waiting and so on, which can be a bit discouraging, but it's very important. It's still a very important exercise that we have to keep doing. But there's something that we call in French marché caché. I don't know in English if it's actually called hidden market, but it is something that I didn't know was that important, I would say a few months ago before I got this position. So what is the marché caché? Basically is I have 5 positions, and instead of going through HR, because I don't trust HR's judgment, I ask the team, hey people, do you know anyone competent who wants a position? And that's how it is filled, and that happens a lot. So we really need to, in addition to Indeed and everything else, it is good to try to exploit this kind of market. And I know it's not easy, but we don't have anything to lose. So my tips for how to exploit this? Well, first off, talk to your advisor. He might have contacts. If he has contacts, well, contact all of them. Otherwise, talk to your friends, talk to anyone you know, add people on LinkedIn, and even approach employers. Like, my boss is currently hiring. I'm sure if someone sends him a message on LinkedIn saying, you know what, I have these skills, I can help your team, he's going to consider it, and other people as well. So I know it's hard to do that, but we have nothing to lose. Worst case is, okay, he's going to tell you, you know what, I'm sorry, I don't have an open position. Best case, you'll get yourself an interview. So this is my second tip. We should not just stay behind the screen and shy from this kind of behavior. I don't know if it's called behavior, but anyways, from this kind of
maybe even attitude, or like
yeah, we should definitely go for that, because it just might land you an interview. And the other way is what I did. Again, it's kind of the same situation, but I know we spend so much time in our PhD. We think, okay, I've had enough of being paid the misery. I want to find a position. We want the best for ourselves, but sometimes you have to go the hard way. So I did the postdoc, although postdocs are not very in a very good position. And when I heard that there is my tax with Ericsson, I just jumped on it. And when I went there 2 months or 3 months later, I had a position. So you have to keep this in mind. Sometimes you have to go the hard way to get what you want. And don't say, okay, I've had enough of a PhD. I'm not going to do a postdoc. Just keep your options open. Sometimes we've invested 4 years in the PhD. A PhD is an investment. It's okay to invest another year to get the ultimate, to get to the ultimate goal. So that's another advice I would give for how to apply. Now, I don't know if Sahboon wants to add on that. I can continue. So once you've applied and you get your interview, well, this is, I would say the interview is the hardest part. Actually, they're both equally hard. It's really hard to get the interview, but once in the interview, it's very important because it's a pass or fail, and it's usually an hour. You cannot learn everything about somebody in an hour. You can't even learn anything about somebody in an hour, but you have to bring out the essential. So how do I prepare for an interview? Personally, the first thing I do is I search for the interviewers. Who's going to be on that call? If the HR did not say, I send an email and ask to know who is going to be in that call, because this is very important, because my answers have to be tailored for the interviewer. If I'm talking, so my current position, actually, I'm a data scientist. I'm not a researcher, but I have a wireless communication background. I didn't know if I was going to be asked data science questions, wireless communication questions, data engineering questions. I had no idea. So how do I get a hint on that? Because at the end of the day, I have to study. I'm not gonna. How do I get a hint of that on that? Well, I just Google the profile of the person who is interviewing me. And that's something I believe everyone has to do. So first step is to know who is interviewing you. Second, in my experience, I've seen there are three types of questions. So they're going to ask about knowledge about the position. So this is something you have to prepare. I've read 2 books, 2 machine learning books before the interview. They're going to ask about this is something I was not expecting, but I learned from the interview. They tend to ask about your personal research work, because it's kind of your comfort zone. So they do ask about that. So just refresh your memory on whatever you have done. and they would ask, that's what I do. I ask about things I am comfortable with. So because that's where I know the answer. So that's where to expect the questions. Now, I would prepare these 3 points in advance, meaning that I would read, try to get some knowledge on them. At the same time, there is the presentation part, where you have to present yourself. And for this, again, job description. Everything you say has to relate to the job description. I learned machine learning, and then that's how I acquired, I don't know what kind of skill they need in their job description. I've done a PhD, so I'm good enough that I've collaborated, I can work in a team. So you have to, everything you say has to go back to that job description. Everything you add has to just tell them how good you are for that position. And that's a story you need to write in advance, and you need to memorize in advance. I memorized it. And last point for the interview, I would say go on YouTube. Before my interview, I went on YouTube. I listened to a bunch of videos of people saying what kind of questions to ask, because you have to prepare questions. What to say in front of the generic question. That was very useful for me as well. So I definitely recommend for you to go through that exercise, because it can help. It can differentiate you from the rest. There are very interesting tips out there. So I guess that's my tips on how to prepare an interview.
No, that's very, I actually got sent some questions, which I'm going to read out, but I think everything you said kind of touched on them a lot. Which are the main steps to look for in a job in general? How to start looking for a job as a new graduate? I think you talked about that. How to prepare for interviews? Which reference to look for jobs? How to find contacts? And you talked a bit about that, using your network and everything. And there is one also: does our current location affect our job destination? Are local people preferred? Which is actually a little bit of a interesting question as well. And actually, there's one question to you particularly. Do you think, as a research professional, the employer consider you as overqualified?
Well, it really It depends. It depends on the person and it depends on the position. In my case, the employer was really is kind of really happy to have more PhDs in the team.
Okay.
And for him, it was not overqualified. But I believe in some cases, it could be considered as overqualified, which is maybe not where you want to apply, but you could definitely.
And I think
Yeah.
one of the things there is to even show that even if there's other things that are interesting that you'll, because what people are worried about is that you'll lose interest and leave, is to show that there's other things that can keep you there as well in that
Yes.
situation. There is one question for Sahubal. Do you think that making a proposal to get funds is painful or rewarding? A question for you, maybe that somebody knows something you've been through, I'm not sure. So do you think making a proposal to get funds is painful or rewarding?
Thank you, Lala. And I don't know who did the question. Actually, it's a comfort zone because I tried a lot for the scholarships. And what I agree with Christian is that, like, if you don't have financial support, if you don't have money, if you sit a chair for research and you think about how should I eat, then I think it's hard to do your research. So I think funding is also a part of your research. It's a part of your scholar, like a degree. Like if you are financially safe, then I think you can concentrate fully for your research. So that's why for trying for funding, it's not a wastage of time, but rather a helping hand for your research. That I should say.
That's great. I think what maybe, because we're kind of getting near the end of the session, but we started a bit late. So maybe we'll, if it's okay with everybody, maybe we'll just go for another 10 minutes past 1:30. And what I would do is maybe that, because at the very end, we were supposed to have a general question and response. So maybe I'll also invite other panelists, if you have responses, to answer these things. I actually have one question specifically for Ruben, is what do you think about procrastination?
I think Ruben microphone is off, so maybe.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, nowadays, more with the COVID, I think it's a big topic because you don't have like normal motivators. I mean, you are at your place and it's more difficult to go through this. What it worked for me was like trying to follow the same routine that I used to have before. Like I just woke up, take a shower, take my breakfast, and then I changed my environment, and something that also helped me a lot because with me I have another scientist who is also doing this. So it's like kind of some type of reinforcement that you have. So in this case, my wife does this reinforcement thing because we both have some things to do, and it's like having like a colleague in your house. So that works well. And also, what I try to do is change my environment, so it's not like the same table that I use for taking breakfast, the table that I used to work. I try to change a little bit the mood and the things, adding some elements as my pencils and everything. But yeah, procrastination is a big topic that is difficult nowadays, and also because it's very easy just to go back to your living room, turn the TV, and it's over the concentration. But if you keep like a normal schedule in which you have times for working, sometimes for just having, let's say, free time for yourself, it should work. But during the PhD, sometimes also procrastination. I have heard like a talk about this, is that we procrastinate when we are afraid of something. So, for example, when we are afraid of not getting that scholarship is why we just take so much time in writing all the CV and everything, because we're afraid of not getting it. Or why we don't finish that paper is because we are afraid of not getting the acceptance. And I think is when you have this mindset and you ask yourself, what is that thing that is making me afraid of finishing that? Is that something that makes a switch in your way of thinking. So that's,
I think it's a very good point, and this fear thing. And one of the things that we use a lot is when you have a big task, quand c'est une tâche qui semble être comme insurmontable. I don't know if that's a word in French, but insurmountable. To break it into little pieces and try and get into little aspects of it. And I think you brought up something that Cédric had asked before about in the confinement, all kinds of things to do with motivation and everything, that it's a very hard thing. And the more support that you can get and find ways to do things, it helps a lot. Cédric has actually asked another question related to graduating and finding a job is, how far ahead of your graduation do you think would be the right moment to start applying for a job? And I invite anybody actually in the panelists to answer this if somebody has an opinion on that.
Oh, well, I can mention something about that.
Perfect.
Well, I guess everybody is looking for different ends. Either find a career, I believe somebody mentioned a career in academics, or finding a way to expand his base, his knowledge base, or perhaps trying to get a degree and then move on to the next phase of his life. So when you're, as it was explained before, I'm glad that I heard that part, that the hidden market, or the networking that we have, that will prepare you to get your next position, your next job. Like all ATS, it has the systematic method of doing it by putting graduates into, or pre-grade students on 6 months internship, and definitely that is the first step. But then after the internship, if the job is not obtained, then there's a very, perhaps for many people, a painful process. So they decide to stick to something that they know, which is academics, and then continue progressing into their studies until the next phase will arrive. That is, unfortunately, these days, we, I guess as a generation, we are going through all these stages. So saying how far, if you start earlier, let's say you get a job, what will you do with your career? So that is your driver probably is not necessarily career path in your profession, but might be some other financial targets that you might want to achieve. So but nevertheless, if you are asking standard process, what I do in my career, I've been always putting the 6-3 rule. So I take a decision 6 months in advance, and then the last 3 months I start to be, my job is to look for a job. So that is the actual process. And when I'm talking about job, I'm not talking about necessarily a place where you get your salary and then that's it, you forget about your life. A job is actually a phase, a challenge, something that you want to be doing it. Let's say if you're not working, you're studying. Complementary thing, right? If you're not married, you're single, things like that. So you are living the moment, and that's what it matters.
It's actually very interesting you bring that up, because one of the questions for you was how could you manage to switch multiple job positions? And maybe the 6-3 rule is part of it as well, but I don't know if you have any other comment about that as well.
Well, I guess it follows personality. I'm somebody that has been, I had a blessing having a life by phases. And every time I look forward to the next phase, I start a new phase, and I need to know when it's going to be over, when it's going to be the middle, my milestones. So I'm very, probably you'll notice, project management oriented. I'm not necessarily into that field as a career, but the concepts of standards, the concepts of regulations, the concepts of best practices are really fulfill my day-to-day life. So that's what I'm aiming for, and I apply that to, in this case, my profession as a telecom professional. I've been doing that for pretty much many years, and it did work pretty well. It gave me great experiences, and understanding that continuing education is a key, definitely a key to continue on your opening or having further opportunities. Definitely, you never stop learning. That's the key. Don't even think that if you get a job, okay, that's it for the university. No, in fact, you will perhaps you will. I noticed somebody mentioned about that. Oh, I went into the market and then I realized, oh, wait a minute, I should take those classes that I never take. So we love these loops. That's
you can never be too prepared
exactly.
for something that's like but I think it's a point, l'idée de flexibilité, the idea of flexibility as well, when you're looking, when you're finding something to try and get the thing that's important out of what you're doing. No, it's very interesting, and I'm sure the attendees very much appreciate the experience of all the panelists. I'm just gonna, because we're at 1:35, so we're 5 minutes over, I'm just gonna see if there's any other question. If there is, feel free to put it in the chat and I'll see if there is, but I'll take this time very, very much to thank everybody that presented. Vraiment, c'était un plaisir d'entendre tout le monde. Puis il y avait des aspects. I think from the organizers, I'm pretty sure that the slides and everything will be sent out because there was a lot of information. J'étais même pas capable de noter des choses. Il y avait, there was all kinds of things there that I think are very, very pertinent. But also, thank you very much to the participants for interacting and asking questions with this. I think it made it a very enriching experience for us all. And there's that's very interesting. There's one question for me. I see. Do you think there should be an introductory course on how to write a paper? I actually think it's a very interesting idea, but it's often the problem with that is that people tend to be ready to write a paper when they're ready to write a paper. Puis on dit ça toujours que c'est mieux de commencer en avance. Like really, your 6-month, 3-month rule, I would say even before, to start thinking about a paper. I think it's a good thing, but I think the biggest thing is that and this has come out from other panelists as well, for other aspects, you can almost think of writing the same way as an athlete. You need to exercise to be able to write. Donc, le partie qui est plus importante, c'est de commencer, is to really, really start. And whether it's using resource guides or courses or participating in activities like Sarah or other things, it's to start communicating. And one of the things that we always say, and it's same for writing your CV, for applying for a graduate position, pour toutes les choses qui ont besoin de communication, things get better with review. So first draft, get it on the page. And then the more you review and go and have colleagues and get feedback, the better and better that it gets as well. But I do think that it would be very interesting to have an introductory course on how to write a paper as well. So I want to very, very much, je veux vraiment remercier tout le monde qui a participé, tout le monde qui a présenté, puis aussi tout le monde qui a organisé ça. To me, it's incredible. I just came and was the person doing things right now, but behind the scenes, there's a lot of people that were really, really instrumental in putting this together. Puis on avait même eu des problèmes techniques. We had very interesting technical problems right before, and I'm very impressed with the team, how they solved it and got us into here as well. The last thing that I want to say is before we finish, when the participants have left, could all the speakers and panelists stay online for a group photo at the end? I think we're going to try and do a screen capture with this as well. And there is actually one last question, maybe in the last couple of minutes before I say goodbye to everyone. And it's for anybody. It's either Basan, Sahubal, or Jorge. How should a new graduate define the job intersubject without having a work experience, if you haven't actually had work experience before? I don't know if somebody has an idea of that. To figure out what your subject should be in your job if you've never worked before. I mean, the one thing that I would maybe say is be flexible and try to see what's interesting to you, but I don't know if anybody else has something to add to that.
Question. I think, in my opinion, it's exactly what you said. It's going to depend on what you want to do. If you want to, I think in the job market, it's not very specific, as in the PhD. We don't choose a specific topic, in my opinion. But at least to know, I'd like to do research. I'd like to do industry. I'd like to work exclusively as a data scientist, just do machine learning, and that's something that would depend on your liking, on what you like to do. Are you happy with research, or you're sick of it? That's something that you should know towards the end of the PhD, I think.
I think it's a very, very good point, is that it's important for you also to find, because you don't want to just start a job and not be interested that way, but it's okay to do something and find your way and change things as well. Je pense que c'est vraiment beaucoup changé. It used to be in the past that you start a job and you're there for 30 years, but nowadays it's changed as well. So exploring and experiencing, I think, is the best way to figure out, if you're gonna enjoy everything as well.
Or take my tip, just do faces. You will be
Yeah,
happy.
exactly. Go with Jorge's 6-3 rule with everything that you have. Well, thank you very, very much. So I'll ask the panelists to stick around. Mais merci vraiment, vraiment beaucoup aux participants, tout le monde qui a participé à tout ça. And I really, this is the second year that I've participated in the IEEE Students Day of research that they have, and I'm very impressed. And I think everybody should explore their IEEE resources and things that are there as well to discover more about things like this. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
So I don't know, Aru says, if it's possible to close the meeting to the other people without losing us, or if not, I guess if you want to take a picture or something, maybe we can just do it with everybody here for that.
Yes, Mona can do to take a picture.
Yeah,
At that time.
just the thing is that we are okay. Ascent is here. We are missing Sadia and okay, Ruben is here too. Sadia, come. Okay, okay, everyone ready? I'm going to take the screenshot. Smile. Done.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you for everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Great job. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Laura. Very much. Chris, Iman, all thanks. Ruben,
Thank you. Bye.
for accepting the invitation.
Everyone.
So everybody, and I guess I'll send my presentation to Kassian, to you as well, and I guess for every other presenter as well to do it. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ruben.
Bye.